In today's video, I want to talk a little bit about knife shields and how I install and make new shields for knives. When I come across knives that are missing the shields or the badges or the emblems or the escutcheons or whatever you want to call them. I also want to talk a little bit about my new book, and I want to talk about what I do with all these knives I fix up. And all that's coming right up, so stay tuned. Hello everybody, and thanks for coming back for another video. I say that every time, but I really do mean it. I sincerely really do appreciate you coming back and watching another video. Today a little bit different. This one is for John from Down Under. He asked me how I make templates for knife shields. So I pulled this one out of my parts knives, and you can see it's missing the shield there. And I'm not going to fix this knife because the blades are just completely shot on it. This was in my parts knife box. I have a whole box full of these. But I thought it'd be a good candidate to show you just how I go about making those templates. But before we get into that, let me talk a little bit about, first off, what I do with all these knives. Well, I haven't done anything with them really. I buy big lots of knives. A lot of times these lots come with knives that are just not really that desirable. They're not real collectible or anything like that. So I have a ton of Chinese, Pakistan, India, all that kind of knives. And some of them are pretty nice. The Rough Riders, I'm hanging on to those because I really like those. I tried selling a bunch at a flea market. I wasn't very successful, but I'm going to try it again over Thanksgiving. At a different flea market south of here. It's actually in Okeechobee. I'll be at the flea market there on 441 Saturday after Thanksgiving and try to sell some of these knives. And I'll have some others with me too. It won't be all Chinese, Pakistan knives. I'm going to have some of my duplicate colonials and imperials and various other knives that I'll be trying to sell. But I do plan on, in the future, I'll probably be listing a lot of knives on eBay because I do have a lot. I've accumulated a lot, especially since I started the grab bag series. I think that's about a couple hundred knives there alone, right there, just from the grab bag series that I fixed up. And a lot of the knives aren't ones that are desirable for everybody. A lot of people, they want those pristine case knives and that look brand new. They're from the 1940s, but they look brand new out of the factory. That's not really my thing. If you know, I'm a budget collector, and I even wrote a book on the subject, collecting knives on a budget. So, not that I don't love those knives, but I'm more of I'd rather have a knife that looks good, that I wouldn't mind using. I do have some knives that I'll never use in my collection, but I want them to look good, and I don't want to be afraid to use them for fear I might scratch the blade or something like that, you know. But that's just me personally. So when I do get to the point where I'm going to sell some of these knives in lots or whatever on eBay, I'll make an announcement in a video on that, and I'll show you which knives I picked out to sell. Now, I'll save the book thing for the end. That way, if you're not interested in it, you can cut the video off when we get to that point. Right now, we'll move on to badges. And like I said, here's an example of one missing a badge. And this is a very thin badge. Some badges you come across are quite a bit thicker, deeper, such as the one on this Boker. You can see it's quite a bit deeper than that one. In which case, I cheat a little bit. You can certainly use heavier brass such as this stuff, but I like to use just thin shim brass. And once it's put in place, you really won't know. Like in the case of this one right here, I'm not going to put just a little tiny bit of epoxy, cut out my badge, and then put it down in there. It's going to be pretty obvious that You know, I like to have the badges where they're flush, right up here on the surface. So I'll put a heavier bed of epoxy and lay it on top. In some cases, I might thicken the epoxy a little bit with Cabasil or some other type of thickening agent and put it there. Or you could just the same, cut a little piece of cardboard or something like that, glue that in first, and then glue your badge on top of that if you wanted to go with thinner. The reason I like to use the thinner stuff is I can cut this with scissors. I can trim it out. I can make some pretty nice intricate shapes such as this just with a good pair of small scissors. So it's a lot easier using the thinner stuff. But if you don't mind filing, pull out your jeweler's files or whatever, your Dremel, and use thicker stuff, that's a great option too. It just takes a little bit more time. So real simple, what I do is I take a pencil and I'm just gonna, on this piece of paper down here, I'm just gonna mark up with the pencil pretty good, like that. I'm gonna take my thumb right here and I'm gonna smear it across that pencil. Get a little bit of that lead on my thumb right there. I'm gonna take a blank piece of paper right here. I'm gonna lay it over where my missing badge is. And then I'm just gonna go like this with my thumb. Press, holding the paper tight in one spot. Hopefully I'm getting this on camera. And there you have it right there. So I can just take this now, cut it out with my scissors, very carefully, right along the edges. And then I take that little piece of paper and I glue it onto whatever I'm making my badge out of. Whether you use a nickel sheet or brass or whatever, I just use craft glue. You can use like Elmer's glue, that works perfect. Glue it on there, and then after you've cut it, trimmed it out, filed it to the right shape and everything, you can just soak it in a little bit of water. In the case of craft glue or Elmer's, soak in a little bit of water, and that paper and the glue and everything will come right off of it. It is a good idea to shine up your brass first, like this old piece of shim brass. Clean up your area first, because it's going to be a whole lot easier to clean it and polish it and everything when it's a big sheet like this versus a little tiny badge like that to polish and sand and everything. So you just do that ahead of time. This one right here, this Boker, I mentioned this before. I contacted Boker and they said all their shields were out of stock, but once they came in, they were going to send me one, and this was probably a couple months ago. So I've given up on them. I found a 380 shell casing right here. It's not brass, but I think it's going to look good in here with the nickel bolsters. And the 380 or 9mm fits perfect in this size. Boker has a variety of different size shields, but this one here fits perfectly in it. So all I have to do is cut all this excess off, and just because all I really need is just this rim right here to glue in place. I'm going to polish it first a little bit, clean it up, and then I'll proceed to cut it down to right size to glue in here. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick and show you what it looks like, and I'll be right back. Okay folks, I got this badge ready to glue in, and here it is. So I'll tell you how I sanded this down. So I held it with my end cutters right here, right underneath the lip so as not to damage any of the edges around it. And I got it down as thin as I could that way, and then it still wasn't quite thin enough. It was sticking up a little bit too high. I could still take a little bit more off, but it's okay the way it is. So I just took a scrap of wood, bored a 3/8 hole in it with my Forstner bit, and then I took some two-sided tape and I stuck the head of it down in there, and then I just used that to hold it, to sand it down as thin as I got it right now. So there was no hand sanding involved at all to making that, and it only took a minute. And so now it's just ready to glue in, and this is kind of what it's going to look like right there. You can see that. So yeah, I'll go ahead and glue that in later. I'm not going to show you that process. You know how to glue stuff. everybody knows how to glue something. One other thing I forgot to mention on badges and shields, you can just leave them plain metal, but you can also stamp in stuff that you want. You can etch it, you can engrave it, you can use like here's a number letter stamps set. I've got a few of these stamp sets. You could stamp initials in there. You can also acid etch it, electro etch it, and you can engrave them with an engraver. So if you want to just leave them plain, that's fine, because a lot of knife factories, that's how they made theirs. And then, and then others were a little bit fancier. So just use your imagination, and you can make them however you want to make them. James was asking me this morning a little bit more information about my book, and I'm pleased to announce that it is now available on Amazon for anybody that's interested. I don't have my copy yet, but here's the book. The last book on sharpening. It doesn't have "Get It on Amazon" on the front like that picture shows, but here's what inspired me. So, repairing pocket knives like I do, I'm constantly running into knives like this and this and this. And I'm not saying these knives weren't well used. They were obviously well used, but they were also improperly sharpened. And so if writing the book can teach a few people how to properly sharpen, and then it prevents wear and tear on knives like these, all the better. I'm not sure how the sales are going to go, but at this point it really doesn't matter. I've always been kind of an entrepreneur my whole life, and I've had some businesses, and there's been some businesses that I wanted to start but didn't have the capital to get them up and running. One of them was a sharpening service years ago. I wanted to get a van and set it up for sharpening mobily, and I just never got it off the ground, but it was something I really wanted to do. So writing this book was kind of my way of providing that service. So hopefully people get enjoyment out of it. It's about 183 pages, I believe. There's a very large reference section in the back of the book showing styles of machetes and different blades, and a lot more reference than was in my first book. It doesn't have tang stamps in it like the first one did, but it has a lot of other useful information in it. It has a really nice section on the history of edges that goes all the way back to the beginning of time. And it was a lot of fun to write. It was a lot of work, but I'm glad I did it. And so any of you that are interested in it, I really do appreciate the support. And so I'll end the video here, folks. I really appreciate you watching. Thanks so much. I hope everybody's having a great day. This is Dave. See you in the next one.